Hi everyone. So I'd like to introduce you to Sarah.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good to see everyone. Exciting. Okay,
Good
so
afternoon, ma'am.
Yes.
I will introduce myself and then I will tell you what's on our schedule. So my name is Sarah and I'm a retired geriatric social worker of many years. And I'm part of the team here in presenting you with an orientation program. Hopefully will help you in adjusting better to your new situation, work, culture, and everything else. So we prepared a few PowerPoint presentations that I'd like to go over with you. One of them will be today, culture, values, and the relationship with elderly patients. I'm going to share a screen. 1 minute. Okay. And I'm going to go through the presentation with you, and I invite you all to participate, ask questions, share experiences. Our purpose in doing this is, basically to enable you to do a good job and to allow you to have this kind of interaction within yourselves as a group. It's always good to have a peer group that you can consult with and share things with. And this is part of the things that we're trying to enable you to do. And hopefully if you share, then you get to know each other. And so keep your cameras on so that we can all kind of get to know each other. First, I'd like to welcome you to our caregiving community here in Israel. Very brave of you to come in these very uncertain times, Corona, politics, all kinds of things are happening in the world. And you've chosen to leave your family and friends and your life behind and come be part of our caregiving team. And I commend you and welcome you for doing that. And I know you're going to be doing a good job and you'll be staying here for a while. And so basically our purpose is to try to care for the caregivers, right? Because those are the important ones in the situation in terms of our perspective. So I'm going to go through this presentation for the next half hour or so, and then I'm going to ask you to participate. Hopefully you will. And then we're going to have a short recess, and then we continue. So basically, we will be together for the next hour and a half or so. And then there's another, few times when we're going to meet in the same way, just so that you know what the program is all about. So today's talk is about culture and values and the relationship with the elderly patient. Basic values in the caregiving work. We all have values, right? Doesn't matter what religion, what culture we're from. I think we all share basic values. But what values are relevant and how do they apply to our caregiving profession? Well, I'd like to think that the better people we are and the more caring and giving we are, the more tools we have in our professional work, in our professional toolbox. And so basically our personality is our toolbox. So we want to be more attuned to all of those qualities that we need in our work. So what are the basic values in the caregiving work? I'll go through them and maybe expand on them in a little bit. Human dignity, autonomy, tolerance, empathy, compassion, and care.
Sarah. Hey everyone, can you hear?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Can you hear Sarah? No, right?
Hello.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so I guess it was
Same.
a problem.
Now, everybody hear and see me? I think
Yeah.
my internet kind of went out for a few seconds. Sorry about that. So we're talking about human dignity.
Sarah,
Yes.
המצגת נסגרה.
Oh, okay. So I'm going to share the screen again. 1 minute. Okay, can we see the screen now? Okay, very good. So human dignity, what's that all about? Values that refers to a person's unique trait as a person. Dignity is the right of a person to be valued and respected for their own sake, to be treated ethically. Respect your patient's humanity, privacy, thoughts, feelings, opinions, beliefs, and his body. Maintain your patient's privacy and dignity. I want to talk about the beginning, when you're trying to make some kind of a relationship with your employer. Don't forget that you're entering his home. You're a stranger from a strange country, strange culture. You look different, you smell different, you sound different, and perhaps you're even, a bit threatening. First of all, smile. Very important. A smile kind of dissipates anxiety. So first, remember to smile a lot, okay? But we must also be aware of the fact that, it is kind of a stressful situation for you as well as for your employer, having a stranger entering his safe place, his secure place, the place where he's in control, the place where, you're intruding on his privacy, even though, the family may be waiting anxiously for your help and needing it desperately and so on and so forth. But even so, having a stranger in your home is a different kind of a situation, and it could probably, bring on quite a bit of stress, anxiety, tension, insecurity, all kinds of feelings that people usually have when something new and strange enters their safe zone. So it's very important to be aware of that. And we must respect the place that our employer is at. We're talking about his privacy, his thoughts, his feelings, his opinions, his beliefs, his body, and all of those things are part of his privacy, but also his home. This is where people feel safe, especially during this Corona time, where everybody is more anxious, more isolated, more introverted, more at a loss of all kinds of things. And this is not only a time in Corona, but also a time in a person's life when they decide to bring a stranger to care for them. This is like a very big decision for them in their life. It's a turning point, it's like retiring, it's like getting married, it's like having a child. It's a turning point in a person's life cycle. And perhaps they've had caregivers, come and go, people that clean and cook and so on. But bringing someone in to be a 24-hour caregiver is another turning point in a person's life. And we must be aware of how that affects them. They're probably, maybe grieving over the loss of their abilities, of the life they've had, and so on and so forth. So in spite of the fact that we're also at a loss of, what we're used to, our family, our friends, they're also in a similar situation, but in a different one. And we must be minded to how people feel around us. Autonomy. Autonomy is the capacity to make an informed and uncoerced decision, self-directing freedom, and especially moral independence. Give your patient the right to choose what he prefers to do, where he wants to go, and allow him to make his own decisions. This is so important, when people have lost so much of their abilities, their life has become so minimalized because of their, everything that I just said before. Being able to make the smallest of decisions about one's own routine and preference in life is a very big deal, okay, to someone who is unable to do a lot of things. So what they want to eat, when they want to eat, how they like it prepared, if they want to bathe, what they want to dress, very important that you ask and allow them to make all of those decisions. It's important that you understand that your position at the beginning is to be a third arm, a fourth arm, a third leg, a fourth leg, and so on and so forth. Allow them to be, as independent as possible in making the smallest and biggest decisions. I'm apologizing ahead of time because my internet for some reason is not very stable today. So I hope I won't be interrupted again. Tolerance. Toleration is allowing and permitting the acceptance of an action, idea, object, or a person, which one can sometimes dislike or disagree with. Be tolerant of your patient. Give yourself time to get to know each other, even if you don't agree with him sometimes, but always respect him. This is very important, that you allow yourself to get to know your employer. And it is a process. We'll talk about the process, building trust and so on. But in the beginning, you just want to get to know each other, just like a dance. You go round and round, 2 steps forward, 2 steps backward. You ask questions. You go around the house. You notice pictures, photographs, paintings, books. You ask about them, where they bought them, what they liked about it, what they didn't. You want to get to know your employer and, of course, his family. You have to see the family as part of the employer. They're going to be there to assist you. And it's very important that you build a good relationship with them as well as with your employer. And you must give it some time and be very patient with yourself, right? It takes time to get to know someone. And all the little things are very important because there may come a time later on in the relationship, in the caregiving situation, where they won't be able to tell you what they like, what music they like, what books they like, what makes them feel comfortable, what smells make them feel good, hot water, what soap, all those little things, how they like to be touched or not to be touched at all. All of those things are very important to know about your employer, so that if there comes a time where they're not able to share that with you, you already know how to deal with certain situations and to alleviate stress and allow them to feel more comfortable and happy. Empathy. Empathy is the capacity to understand or feel what another person is experiencing from within his frame of reference. That is the capacity to place oneself in another person's position. Definition of empathy encompasses a broad range of emotions and states. Try to empathize with your patient's physical and emotional condition. Well, this is something that takes time. If you have a medical background, then perhaps you can understand more if a person's in discomfort or pain, dealing with a certain kind of a disease and so on, what kind of circumstances he may be in. But emotionally and psychologically, you can't know until you know the person, right? And so this is the process of getting to know our employer so that we know how to allow him to, to feel most comfortable when he's stressed, how to deal with difficult situations. And we can empathize with his situations after, emotionally, especially, and psychologically empathize with him if we know him as an individual. So we do need to invest time and effort in getting to know everything that is about him, right? What were his triumphs? What were his disappointments? Who are the important people in his life? And so on. Compassion, sympathetic pity and concern for the suffering or misfortune of others. Compassion motivates people to go out of their way to help physical, mental, and emotional pains of another and themselves. Well, I am assuming that, all of you have a certain amount of compassion in your personality as is. Otherwise, you wouldn't be in this business. It's not like you're going to be driving a truck or, or dealing with, food or anything else that's, on a routine basis. This is work that deals with compassion. And if we are, compassionate people in our personality, this is something that drives us. And so it enables us to do this difficult job and to do it well. So I think that compassion is not something I think you can learn. I think you probably have it, and you learn to, to use it in a positive way in order to do a good professional job as a caregiver and as an individual, as a person altogether, no matter where you are. And care, this is our work, right? The provision of what is necessary for the health, welfare, maintenance, protection of someone or something. So this is what your responsibility has been, that you've taken on, right? To maintain the welfare, the health, and to protect the employer that you're responsible for, but not just him, also his home and his property. The family has given you the opportunity and the trust of putting, this very important, valuable person and his home and his valuables in your hands. And it's a big responsibility. And everybody makes mistakes in the beginning, and that's okay. So you must be compassionate with yourself as well, and patient, of course. And yeah, it takes time. It definitely takes time. So, having said all that, I would like to, to invite you to share with us what is your opinion is the most valuable caregiving work. Are there any other values that you believe that are important in caregiving work? Have you had experience in caregiving work that perhaps you'd like to share with us? Has anyone been abroad in a, in a different culture with a different language in a caregiving situation that they had to adjust? It'd be very nice to hear from you all, or any of you. Would anyone like to share?
Hi, Mom.
Hi.
Question number one, Mom. What in your opinion is the most important value in caregiving work? I think all of the above, because when you combine it, all of these characteristics or traits, you will become a better caregiver, and it's an effective to do so as a good caregiver. That's all one thing.
Okay. What is your name? Norley?
Yes, Mom. Already.
Okay, Norley. Nice to meet you. And have you been a caregiver abroad before?
No, Mom. This is my first time.
Okay. But you've been a caregiver in the Philippines in your experience before?
Yes, Mom. I had one patient during my after my college as a nursing graduate.
Okay, so this is a big adventure for you, being abroad and caring for, an elder person. I assume that's in a different, different family situation, different cultural situation. Thank you. I think that, yes, all of the values are important, and I would even add something that isn't in the presentation, and that's perseverance, because from what I see, most of you are young people, and that's good, because that means you're healthy and strong and adventurous, and and you're ambitious. And it also means that it's very important to be able to persevere, right? To withstand difficult situations, not to give up, to try to if someone throws you out the window, we say, or throws you out the door, you come on from the back door or from the back window, or you try to deal with the situation in different ways, being creative and finding the strength, the inner strength within yourselves to persevere difficult situations. I think this is also a very important value to to talk about. And anyone else would like to perhaps add something or share another experience? Anyone worked abroad before this coming to Israel? No one? This is for everyone a new experience in working in a different country. Evelyn, how about you?
Yes, ma'am.
This is your first time abroad?
First time to work as caregiver in abroad, but I have a lot of patients before in the Philippines. I handled many kinds of cases of patients.
Okay.
First is Alzheimer's. The first thing I did to him was to adapt and study his likes and dislikes for us to get to know each other.
Yes, very important. Very important
Yes.
to get to know what person likes and dislikes, what makes them happy, comfortable, secure. All of those things are very important to find out in the beginning. And so that you can use that as a tool to, to enhance
Yes.
their life. Exactly.
And usually, in general, I always inform them what we need to do the whole day, the activities of the patient, so that she has or he has the idea.
Okay, so it's not a surprise. So you're talking them through what you're going to do. That gives a person a sense of security. I'll tell you, when I go to the dentist, it's always a stressful situation for me as well. And I always appreciate that he talks me through what he's going to do. I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, you're going to feel this, you're going to feel that. It's going to be a little cold, a little bit water, a little bit drooly. He tells me ahead of time what to expect as, before he does it. And that gives me a sense of security. So
Yes.
thank you for sharing that. That's a very good, a very good thing to know to use.
Thank you very much.
Marilyn, you wanted to share something? I see you have your hand up.
Okay. Okay, ma'am. For me, it's my second time to go abroad, and so far, what I'm gonna share is that before you're gonna enter in your patient or to know your patient, it is very important that you're gonna know what is the case of the patient, so that you're ready when you get there. It's it's for you to be ready what to be expect. Like my patient now, my patient is have Parkinson's, so it's very important that I'm gonna search to add some research that what is Parkinson, so that because we know what is the what how to handle the patient well. And so I think that's it also, ma'am.
Okay, so you're spending a lot of time researching and learning about his ailments and so on. And good for you. That's going to help you, I'm sure. Knowing
Yeah,
how,
especially for
okay.
me, this is my first time that I handle a Parkinson patient, ma'am.
Okay, but they're all different. So, right.
Yes,
And
yes.
there's so many different options.
Yes,
But
ma'am.
okay, learning more about his situation is going to help you. Where were you abroad?
In Kuwait, ma'am.
In Kuwait. And
Yes.
you also worked as a caregiver there?
Yes, caregiver, and also like this, ma'am, a sit up,
Okay.
domestic helper, and at the same time a caregiver.
And you learned a little bit of Arabic?
A little.
A little. Okay. Well, Hebrew is going to sound a little less strange to you because it is a
Yes.
semantic
It's a little
language like
different.
Arabic.
Yes.
But
Yes,
and some of
ma'am.
the words may sound similar, the
Yes.
counting, wahat.
Yes. Some of it.
Okay. And we all know that we need to smile a lot, right? I keep
Yes,
saying
ma'am.
that.
Yes. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Marie Carr, you have your hand up. You want to talk to us about your experience?
Yes. I shared it only my experience here because this is not my first job working abroad, but this is my first job
I
abroad as
can't
a
hear you.
caregiver. Hello. Oh my God. Hello.
Is it my internet or yours?
Oh.
No, we can't hear you well.
Hello.
Maybe you can raise your voice a little bit.
Hello.
Okay,
Hello?
now we hear
This
you.
is okay? Okay. Hi, everybody. I just want to share this. This is not my first time to work abroad, but this is my first time to work as in abroad as a caregiver.
Mm,
Um, when I came here to Israel, I need to know the tradition, the language, and the other things that we need to learn as a caregiver. Then we arrive here Wednesday, Thursday, take a rest, and Friday is a Sabbath day, right?
mhm,
The daughter of my employer asked me if I want to join with their what they call it tradition.
mhm,
Then I told to her that really I have to know what tradition. I respect the religion so that I want to know everything about you so that I don't have any mistake to do in your house. And she told me that respecting elderly and religion and other things is more important. That's why he told me that she told me that Filipina caregiver is such a nice woman because they always want to know everything so that they can know how to adjust everything there. That
mhm.
would be all. They're very nice to me.
Oh, good.
And yes, they are. We just like family here.
Oh, that's how nice. And where are you? What city are you in?
I'm in Holon.
In
My
Jolon.
yes, my patient is half paralyzed,
Mm.
and he's 6'3", I think 6'3". He's very tall.
Oh, wow.
Yes,
6'3".
yes, but but her daughter really accompanied me, and even my employer, uh, I try myself my best to give them massage, hot compress every day. She told me that I am a gift. I just forgot the Hebrew words in gift that she told me that you are a gift that every day I make me feel good. I don't know if it's true, but
Well,
I think he will get better soon.
oh, that's wonderful. So you've
Yes.
had a very warm welcome. And
Yes, I have.
and as I said, the family is as important as your employer, right? It's a group
Yes.
effort. And I'm very happy that yeah, you're starting off on the right
Yes,
foot, we say.
the empathy, the sympathy, the perseverance I already put in already.
Okay.
Yes, even long patient. I really do. Thank you for bringing
Thank
us
you for
this.
sharing.
Sure, thank
Okay.
you,
We are here for you.
thank you.
Hona, is that your name? Hona, I see your hand raised.
Chona, ma'am.
Ah,
Chona.
Chona. Okay,
Yes.
nice name, Chona.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay.
Toda.
In Hebrew, we would say Hana and probably spell it very similarly. Chona.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So,
Uh,
would you like to share?
yes, ma'am. I just want to share my experience with my employer as of now. Actually, this is my first time working as caregiver, but
Okay.
I feel like she's my grandma. And the reason she told me why she hired me, honestly, she told me she liked me because of they answered with my recorded interview. And I honestly told her that I will take care and love her like my grandma. That's the
Ah,
reason why she hired me.
how
Because
nice.
she felt the love. And
Very
she
good.
told me that even though I'm just staying here for a few days, she felt that we're together for many days.
Ah, so you had a very welcome, welcoming
Yes, mom. To be honest, mom, it's my day off today, but we spent
Sunday.
a lot together. We ate together. Yeah, we dined
Where
together.
where are you? What city are you in?
Netanya, mom. Netanya.
Natanya.
Yvette has
Okay.
Lucia. Yes, mom.
Okay. So that's a nice area to be in. Good. Okay, very good. So you're slowly getting to know your employer and hopefully, yes, you'll have a good bond with them.
Yes, ma'am.
Good. Anyone else like to share? Where are you on that? You're moving around. We see you upside down and inside out. Okay. Lorendes, am I saying your name correctly?
Yes, it's Lourdes. Good afternoon.
Lourdes? Okay,
Lourdes.
hi. Lourdes? Okay, Lourdes.
Yeah.
Don't be insulted if people have a hard time with your names, okay? And if they have a
It's
hard
okay.
time with their names, and if they give you, you know, kind of a different name that makes it easier for them to say it, you know, don't be offended. You know, older people sometimes have a hard time remembering new things. So tell us what
Yeah, you
would
can
you
call
like
me
to
Des.
share? So you've told you that already? Okay.
Yes, I just want to share before anything we do, before we start our work, we must pray for the day, especially for our patient, for our employer. Pray for their health and the whole day that will might happen, that everything will go on just fine, everything okay, everything fine, so there's no problem for the both of the caregiver and the employer.
Okay, thank you. That's a very important value. I see that it's a big part in your life. You're a very spiritual person and you've come to a very spiritual country. We like to think of Israel as the navel of, you know, the world. All the major religions like make a big claim on this little corner of the world. And yes, praying, meditation, exercise, singing, whatever makes you feel empowered and calm and strong is very important to do. Very important. I agree with you completely. Where are you, Lorendes?
in in Beth Shemesh.
In
Beit Shemesh.
Beit Shemesh. Okay, that's a spiritual place. Lots of religious people there, and I hope that you'll find your situation, you know, comfortable and so on. Okay, very good. Anyone else like to share or ask a question about anything? This is a format that is, you know, for you guys in any situation. So we're going to take a 5-minute break and then we're going to come back and then I'm going to continue with the presentation with some more important issues that we need to talk about. Okay. Thank you for now. 5 minutes, everyone.
Okay.
Hello, good to see everyone. Open your camera so we can see each other and you can see each other.
Hi, Mom. Mom, excuse me.
Hello. Okay.
I have some clarification in regards to tolerance.
Go ahead.
How far we can go or how far we can tolerate our client to do his will, knowing the fact that he may be, he may be, it may cause, if it may cause to the harmful effect of his life or security or safety, then, then the will of that specific client or employer maybe 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 can cause an harm. Yeah, that's why I'm
Well, you know, it's a dilemma. You're absolutely right to
yes.
think that there's a dilemma where, you know, where the borderline is. I mean, it's our responsibility to care for our clients. So if we think that he's doing himself harm, then obviously it's not, you know, for us to allow it. But you know, those big situations are not something that you'll have to deal with on your own. your client has family, and there is a social worker from the agency, and there's the CME, call line, and so on. So I don't think that, if a situation arises that you have to deal with on a continuous basis, then, you'll have to consult with your client, with the people around, to see what would be the right decision to make. That's true. But those are difficult situations, right?
Yes.
When a person, okay, I don't know if I have an answer, but that is a dilemma that, sometimes we have to deal
Yeah.
with.
Yeah.
But hopefully we don't want to be alone there. I think
Okay.
that's the main thing, right? There are many dilemmas in caregiving that, hey, listen, we have a very difficult job as caregivers, especially for elderly. We're accompanying them in the last part of their life, which is a very intimate, difficult part of life, and in one sense, it's a privilege. On the other hand, it's a big responsibility, right?
Yes.
So it's always important to build relationships with people that are as involved and care as much as we care, to share the responsibility. Okay, not to be alone with difficult situations. The
Thank you.
next subject that I want to talk about is gender aspect in caregiving work. Okay, so this is an important subject. We think it is, and I would like to speak about it more in detail. First, I'd like to say that if you know or don't know, in general, Israel is a very tolerant country for people on the spectrum. Today it's modern to think that people's sexuality and if they're men or women or in between is on a spectrum. But we must, and in Israel, generally, it's very liberal kind of a society towards that, gays and so on. But we must also remember that our clients are probably old-fashioned and very conservative in their thoughts and in their mind. So sometimes, we have things we keep in private, and sometimes, we don't share exactly everything until we know and are sure about how people receive everything in our personal life. Okay. A few facts about gender and care work. Although most of the caregivers are women, there are also many men who are caregivers, especially when a man needs to be cared for. Some of the female caregivers provide care for a man or live in the home where a man lives. And some of the male caregivers provide care for a woman or live in a home where a woman lives. How does gender contribute to the caregiving relationship? Although women usually take care of children, adults, parents, spouses, and other family members, but there are also men who have these abilities. Women naturally have the ability to care for others with empathy, compassion, concern, and love, but men can also have the good caregiving abilities, and some men like to take care of their family or work in the care field. Your caregiving qualities are an asset. Be proud of them and use your caregiving abilities to provide good quality care. I know not everyone can do this job. Not everyone can be a caregiver. Not anyone or everyone can be with people in a compromised situation, in an intimate situation. And this is a really big job that, people that have, how should I say it, the ability to do it. And maybe it's not high up there on the totem pole in terms of, professions that are, how should I say it, respected or not. But whoever is involved in this situation and this caregiving work knows exactly how much profession is involved in doing being a good caregiver. Okay. I want to talk about gender issues. And you must be minded that in spite of the fact that you're here to do a professional job and a good job, sometimes how should I say it? The fact that you're gentle spoken and kind and considerate and are touching people in an intimate way, in a caring way, in a gentle way, by bathing them, dressing them, feeding them and so on. Sometimes those situations can be misunderstood by our client or by, other family members that live with them or are around them. And it's very important that you are aware and are attuned to how other people respond to you as well. Being young, healthy, people, there is a sexuality around everyone. And if you are approached in an inappropriate way or you're propositioned in an inappropriate way, you must respond directly and professionally and, and call me and say, no, this is not the intention. I'm doing this, that, and the other, and not more than that. And, and you don't need to be offended, and so on and so forth. You must also be aware that sometimes, if you're taking care of a husband, if you're a man and you're taking care of the husband, maybe the wife would be jealous. He's stronger, better, etc. Or, your client might be jealous that all of a sudden the wife is smiling at you or the husband is smiling, that that the dynamics of the house has changed. And even if it's changed to a better situation because of you, and this is how, how the intention is, but sometimes people don't know that they would be offended or hurt or angry or jealous because of that. Okay, so you must be minded of how the dynamics has changed and to try to alleviate any stress that's involved. Okay, very important to watch out for all those little pitfalls. When treating a man or being close to a patient, spouse sexual harassment can occur, and it's important to be aware of it. Here are a few tips how to deal with sexual harassment on this YouTube presentation. Sometimes, you're asked to take care of a man if you're a woman or, the opposite sex. And if you're not used to it, and if your patient or client is not used to it, and it may be stressful. So all of those things are, part of our job. And if it's in any way interpreted in a not appropriate way, you must deal with it, and you must never tolerate it. Okay? Never tolerate it. It's not okay to be in any way hassled or, or mistreated. Again, I invite you to participate if anyone has any concerns about if they're, caring for a man or a woman, or if there's a husband or a wife in this situation, or if you've had any kind of experience working with the opposite sex, and how was that for you? And if you have some tips for the rest of us, it would be very nice if you'd like to share. Here are some questions. Do you have any concerns about being a man or a woman in a caregiving situation? Do you think caregiving work is easier for a man or for a woman, and why? And do you think that caregiving care will be harder if you're a man or if you're a woman? I think one of our participants, remind me her name. I couldn't pronounce it, so now I can't remember it. Was talking about caring for a man who's paralyzed, and he's 6'3", and she's probably not 6'3" herself. So sometimes we're asked to deal with, a man of the opposite sex, much larger than us, maybe a woman that's much heavier than us, different kinds of situations. Anyone like to share or ask a question?
I think for me, mom, caregiving is easier for a woman because woman can handle any gender. She can be, she can be deployed in a woman, employer or a man employer. Doesn't matter.
Okay, so you think it would be harder for you? Okay. Maybe? You seem, how old are you? Can I ask, Norley?
I'm 35, mom.
35, okay.
Yes,
So,
ma'am.
certain things we learn with age.
Yeah,
And
thanks.
one of them is to rely on ourselves, right? And to be able to deal with situations. Is this your first time being abroad as a caregiver?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so it's a challenge. And okay, you'll learn
Challenge
slowly.
accepted, ma'am. Challenge accepted.
Challenge accepted, okay. Anyone else like to share about an experience or question? Okay, I'll just say one thing about caring for, people that are bigger than us and so on. You must know that, besides having the family of the employer as your assistant, there is a very good health system in Israel that you'll be part of if you should need any kind of medical assistance. But also it provides all kinds of apparatuses for lifting and bathing and, whatever appliances you may think that you need. So sometimes the family wouldn't know that these things are available. So that would be part of your, part of your job. If you have a hard time lifting or moving or dealing with some kind of a situation in a physical way, you should research on the internet and see what would be, an appropriate device. And they are all readily available in Israel for, through the medical system or with no cost or something minimal. So it shouldn't be an issue. Okay, anyone else like to ask a question or share something in their experience? If not, we'll continue. Okay, intercultural encounter. This is also a big subject. Intercultural differences are differences in traditions, food, norms, beliefs, values, which vary between nations, people, ethnic groups, and speakers of different languages. Every culture has its own way of expressing itself. Every culture has its own way of defining conflict, passing messages, resolving conflict, and talking about it. Every culture has its own way to express emotions and talk about emotions. Well, obviously that's very true. I don't know if any of you have encountered Jewish people in your past or encountered Israelis in the past and so on. But this is a Middle Eastern country. Most of us like to think that we're more European than Middle Eastern, but I don't know about that. And, as a culture in general, we tend to be louder and talk with body language and with a lot of pathos in our voice and with, hand gestures. And sometimes, we may seem to be arguing or talking in, how should I say, in a very expressive manner. And someone may think that, oh, they're fighting, they're talking in loud voices and so on. But no, this is probably just the way that people talk in Israel, and it's accepted behavior. Doesn't mean you have to talk that way. But you must be minded that, I don't know about the specific families. And I think, who was it, Shona, that you told us that, or someone else? Now I get confused with names I'm not familiar with, that you had a very warm welcoming, and the daughter said that you wanted to learn about the culture, and she said that respecting, the client, Mary Karen, maybe it was you,
Yeah,
I don't
maybe it's
remember,
me.
it was you, right? That the
Yes.
daughter said that it's more important that you respect your employer than you respect all the different cultural, traditions, which is
Yes,
such
we
a
have
nice
to.
thing to say, a very
Yes, we
nice
have
thing
to.
to say.
Yes.
But on top of all of that, yes, you do have to learn about the specific ways, ins and outs and do's and don'ts of the family that you're staying with. And Jewish people do have, how should I say it, particular curious ways of doing things, especially in the kitchen, but not just. So it's not something that everybody does the same way. So you just have to take the time, write things down, ask a lot of questions about how things are done, and not to be offended, okay? Not to be offended or take it personally. first of all, if you make mistakes, you make mistakes. You come forward and you say you did this, you did, you didn't know, you didn't remember that it was a problem. But write things down and ask as many questions. Sometimes people think, oh, how do they not know this? You don't know. You come from you come from the moon as far as they're concerned, and people don't do things the way they do it where you come from, right? And don't be offended if they ask you not to go in the kitchen, not to touch things, not to use their refrigerator, not to bring your food in, to eat separately, to eat, whatever. It takes really a long time or a short time, depending on the family, to build a relationship of trust, right? That you know what the rules are in their home, and that, they learn to that you respect those rules, and that you wouldn't violate anything that they asked you not to do. So it takes time. And on the other hand, voice your needs. Everybody needs basic things, where you sleep, where you eat, where you keep your food, where you bathe, where you wash your clothes, where you spend your time, what your time schedule is like, what your responsibilities are, etc., etc., etc. So all of those things must be discussed. And I think it's not just a cultural thing, but part of it is how people express emotions, right? So some people say, oh, I love you, I love you, I love you all day long. And some people don't say anything. And if they crack a smile, that means the whole world, So you must be sensitive to your client, and everyone behaves differently. When people become disabled and ill, and I always like to think that their personality kind of like an onion, you lose kind of, all kinds of not shells, but layers of being politically correct, layers of being polite, layers of being, when you're in pain and you're uncomfortable and so on. And the core is what is left. And if in the core, you're a kind, gentle person, then that's probably what will shine through. And sometimes a disease changes your personality, and so you really don't know. But it's accompanying a person in the last part of his life cycle is really, I think I've always thought of it as an honor, and it will be a challenge to do it in a strange country, in a strange culture, with strangers. This is like a really very very professional challenge, and you've taken it on, Norley, so I commend you for it. How to adjust to a new culture. Be patient and give yourself time. It's important that you keep your culture and customs and traditions, and if you want to, of course. A few tips about how to adjust a new culture you can find on this YouTube presentation. And I say what I said before, very important. When you came here on the plane, stewardess gave you and everyone instructions on how to behave in an emergency. First, you put the oxygen mask on yourself. And then if you have someone traveling with you that's disabled, you put it on them. So it's the same idea. Caregiver must be strong and able to do his job. And so I recommend that you do whatever it needs to do to maintain your strength, your emotional balance, and everything else. If you need to pray, pray. Need to exercise, exercise. If you meditate, if you whatever it is you do, keep in touch with family and friends through the media, the way we're doing it now. All of that's very important. And I invite you again to participate. Have you heard something about Israelis culture? What have you heard? Do you have any concerns about adjusting to the Israeli culture? Do you have any questions about Israeli culture, food, Shabbat, religion, politics, love? I invite you to ask and share with me and with us, all of us here. Anyone have anything they'd like to share or ask? No one? Emilio, is that you? I see that you're sharing the screen with your employer. Is that right? I thought I saw someone, two faces on the screen. That's fine. Anyone want to say something? Well, I will begin by sharing with you a hand gesture that perhaps if you haven't been in the Middle East before, you may come across and it might be helpful to you. So if everyone would kind of look at me for a second, and we kind of cup our hands like this, you know, all the fingers together, and wave our hand up and down and say rega, rega, rega. That means a minute, please. Okay, so if you've been in the Middle East, you've maybe come across this gesture before. We have a lot of hand gestures in languages. Kind of, let's do this. Rega, rega, rega. That means, and if you add a smile, that really does a good job in presenting a situation where 1 minute, please, you know, and you already know something to say. Rega, 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 but it goes together with a hand gesture like this. Yes, good. Marilyn, okay. Rega, rega. Marilyn, I see you want to say something, but you're on mute. Can you unmute your?
Okay, ma'am. Since I already there in Kuwait, ma'am, for the first time I get in abroad, and this is the second time, and then what I just what you call this one apply is to be a very good observant, ma'am. I just only observe like what I did in Kuwait when I'm
Okay.
there, and also here in Israel. I just only observe what is the culture, and that's it, ma'am. I just being good observant, ma'am, and also
Okay.
respect
Good
their
tip
culture.
to be an
Yes, ma'am.
observant. Okay,
Yes.
pay attention to all the little details.
Yes,
Very,
ma'am.
very good tip. And have you done this
Yes.
before? Have you?
Yes. Yes. Wait.
Wait, wait. Rega, rega,
Yes. Yes.
rega.
Rega,
Rega
rega.
is a moment in Hebrew. We say a
And then,
moment.
yalla, 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 faster,
Oh, that's
yalla,
good.
yalla. Yeah. That's it, ma'am.
You'll hear some of that as well.
Yes.
You know, time is
Uh,
different in different cultures, right?
Yes,
So
Marie, that's true.
you
That's
know
true.
that. I don't know how it is in the Philippines, but in Israel, time is
Uh,
it's not exactly on the button. We're not as like the English might be. 7
yes, yes.
o'clock might be 7:15 or a little.
Like also in the Philippines.
Also in the
That's it.
Philippines?
Yes.
Okay, so you're used to that. We call it an academic hour, that you can be late
Okay.
at least 15 minutes.
In the Philippines, much worse.
Oh, worse. Okay, I thought you were better.
It's okay, ma'am. Thank you,
Okay.
ma'am.
Okay, Marilyn, thank you for sharing that. Yes, to be very
Thank you,
observant.
ma'am.
Okay, and pay
Yes.
attention to details.
Okay, ma'am.
Thank you. Anyone else would like to share about an experience or a question? Has anyone had family or friends in Israel already that have kind of informed them about what to expect or not to expect? So I'm assuming this is a new experience for most of you. Anat, do you have anything you'd like to say, to add for today? Anat, are you with us? Hmm. And we can't hear you if you're with us.
Can you hear me now?
Now we hear you. Yes,
Okay,
kind
so
of
I
lost you
needed
for a
to
few
move.
minutes.
Sorry, but I can't turn on my video. There's some
That's
kind of
okay.
problem. And so
Okay.
I really like to thank everyone for participating. And it was very interesting. I didn't get to speak, but I did listen. And it was very interesting. So thank you for that. We will meet again tomorrow. And I will send you the link also tomorrow. Okay, and it will be wonderful and very interesting. And I hope you all be able to come back tomorrow to our
Okay. Tomorrow we're going to meet in the morning, if I'm not mistaken, at 9 o'clock.
And hold on, let me check. Yeah, 9:15, I guess. But
Okay.
just check for a second. Yes, tomorrow at 9:15.
Okay, very good. And then again, if you think of questions or comments or anything you'd like to share or ask, you're very welcome. We're here for you. And yes, I hope everyone has a nice evening and we'll meet again tomorrow morning.
Yes.
Thank you, ma'am.
Tomorrow morning.
Saudara.
Good evening,
Okay.
everyone.
Bye,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you,
Thank
Mom.
you.
Thank you, Mom.
Saudara ba?